The Rotang Pass is a place defined by extremes. Even in the daylight, the terrain is already hostile to human life, a desert of sheer drops into the valley below. 4 friends drove into this landscape looking for an escape from a difficult year. But while the others were focused on the view, Samay was silent, barely acknowledging the world outside the car. Just 3 months earlier, Samay's younger brother had died in a sudden road accident. This wasn't a grief he was processing. It was a trauma that had completely hollowed him out, leaving him drifting without his usual defenses. In an environment this isolated, that level of emotional exhaustion changes the dynamic. It leaves a person quiet, observant, and, without realizing it, completely exposed to whatever might be watching from the ridgeline. Their base of operations was the street level of Manali, a town packed with tourists and bright lights that offered a false sense of security before they began the long drive up the pass. Before they left for the summit, the hotel receptionist gave them a specific warning: make sure you are off the mountain and back in the hotel before 6 p.m. He explained that Rotang literally translates to the Valley of Death. Local tradition holds that after the sun sets, a deceptive shadow moves through the pass, using the freezing wind and darkness to hide its approach. The group dismissed the warning as local superstition. They stayed at the summit far too long, and by 9:15 p.m. they were descending into a thick, unnatural fog that seemed to swallow their headlights whole. By staying past the curfew and driving into the center of that fog, the group had moved beyond the reach of local authorities. They were now operating under a different set of rules. The first sign that something was wrong was the road itself. No matter how many turns Arun took, the geography of the pass seemed to be folding in on itself. They passed a milestone that read Manali 28 kilometers. They drove at a steady pace for 20 minutes, only for the fog to clear and reveal the exact same stone. Manali 28 kilometers. They were driving in a perfect, impossible loop. This diagram helps visualize what was happening inside that loop. A predatory presence was testing each man in the car, searching for a way in. 3 of them have intact psychological barriers, but the 4th is fractured by grief. The entity was projecting different images to see which one would stick. Sahil saw a freezing man. Chirag saw a little girl. Arun saw a black horse. None of them reacted. But when it turned its attention to Samay, it found exactly what it was looking for. It wasn't just haunting the road. It was cycling through illusions, waiting for one of the passengers to acknowledge its presence. The random images stopped. The entity had identified the weakest point in the car's collective defense. It focused everything on Samay. A figure emerged from the fog, a 15-year-old boy with battered clothes and bruised skin. The car was moving at 40 kilometers per hour, yet the boy was keeping pace right next to Samay's window, his movements perfectly fluid. The other 3 men saw a physical impossibility and were terrified, but Samay looked at the boy and saw his dead brother. He didn't see a spirit. He saw a child who needed his help. Samay smiled at the reflection in the rearview mirror and forced his window open. He reached out, inviting the boy inside. Instantly, the fog lifted, the milestone changed to 16 kilometers, and the road back to Manali finally opened. The entity didn't need to break into the car. It just needed someone on the inside to turn the handle and let it in. The group reached the hotel at 2 a.m. They were exhausted and shaken, but they believed that by making it back to the room, the danger had passed. At 3:30 a.m., Sahil was jolted awake by a soft, rhythmic sound. He found Samay standing in front of the vanity mirror, singing a childhood lullaby to his own reflection, in a voice that completely didn't sound like his own. Samay's eyes were bloodshot, and dark, finger-shaped bruises were beginning to bloom around his throat, as if he were being strangled by something invisible. He turned to his friends with a wide, vacant smile and asked, "If I knock on your window tomorrow night, you'll help me again, won't you?" Then his eyes rolled back, and he collapsed heavily onto the floor. The entity from the past was no longer outside. It was now using Samay's voice and Samay's body to communicate. The next morning, the group sought out a local spiritual authority. They needed someone who understood the specific nature of the Rotang curse to help break the attachment. During the exorcism, the pundit confirmed the entity used the brother's memory as a mask. The ritual ended with Samai purging a thick, black liquid, the physical remnant of the presence that had entered him on the road. This story highlights the danger of bringing unresolved trauma into environments that are already thin. The mountain didn't create Samai's grief. It provided a predator that knew how to use it. In the end, the most dangerous part of the Valley of Death isn't the fog or the cliffs. It's the moment you look into the darkness and see exactly what you've been missing, and you decide to open the door.